Hello, everyone, and welcome to Transfer 101, presented by Santiago Canyon College Transfer Center. On today's agenda, here are some following key components that we will be discussing. We will be discussing what to consider when transferring, what is impaction, the different systems of higher education, which include the Cal States, the UCs, private and out-of-states, some transfer agreements, financial aid and paying for college, and what can you start doing now? To start off, please scan the QR code to take this Transfer 101 pre-test. It's a short survey to kind of get an idea of where your knowledge is on transfer. If you are watching this recording, please pause the video right now and resume once you are ready. What to consider when transferring? As a counselor, one of the really common questions that I get is, where can I actually transfer to? And this generally comes from our incoming students because they're curious, where can I actually go from a community college? And the easiest answer I can give you is that anywhere that accepts a transfer student, which includes our Cal State system, our UC system, private and out of states. Majority of the schools that are accredited, which we'll get into in a second, are going to offer options for transfer students. One of the biggest things you want to take into consideration when you are selecting a college of interest for possible transfer is accreditation. So what is accreditation? Accreditation is something that legitimizes your degree and transferability of your courses. Essentially, it is recognized by future employers, future postgraduate programs, future medical schools, and so on. It is important for you to do some research and understand if the college you are applying to is an accredited institution. Typically, when we are looking for accreditation, we are looking for 6 different commissions that are considered accredited across the United States, which include Northwest Commission, Higher Learning, WASC, Southern Association of Colleges, Middle States Commission, and New England Commission. Different regions of the United States fall under different commissions, but essentially when you are looking for a college, you can look under the accreditation, typically on the website, and it'll tell you which commission it falls under. Another important thing to consider when selecting your school of interest for possible transfer is deciding whether you are interested in a school that is a research-based learning or applied learning. How are these different? A research-based learning institution is an institution that typically you as a student will be conducting research while you are in your upper division courses. You might be giving an assignment, a project, going out and doing some research. Research-based institutions require a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of investigative work. Versus applied learning, which is more reflective of institutions like the Cal State system, are more hands-on, great for kinesthetic learners, learners that learn by doing. Essentially, the way I like to describe applied learning is that you go to class, you learn the lecture base, and you might go out into the field in a possible internship to apply what you are learning within the field. So there's a big difference between the research base like the UCs and the Cal States being applied learning. And then you also want to consider that not every school has every major. So it's important that as you are doing research as a student, you are familiarizing yourself with the campus that you are interested in and understanding if they have your major or something related similar to your major of interest. Just because you're interested in a school does not mean that every school will have the exact major you're looking for. So it's important to understand that they may have something similar that is along the lines of what you want to do. A very important thing to consider as you are looking into your schools of interest is the geographical location and setting. It is very important that you are at a campus where you feel comfortable and you feel like, you fit in. Essentially, one of the biggest things that makes you feel like you're fitting in is the setting of that college. Are you looking for a school where, you're going across the country into different weather? For example, the winter, maybe you're interested in going to NYU. Well, it snows in New York, and as a Californian, that could be a lot of a culture shock for you. Are you looking for something that's, surrounded by big buildings in a city where it's loud and there's a lot of action? There's a great opportunity for you to go to schools that are more inner city. And more, maybe you're looking for something that's like more of a college town setting. You want that small town feel where the universities are the focal point of that small town. And maybe you're just looking for good weather year round. Um, these are important factors to definitely take into consideration as you are selecting your schools of interest. Also, you want to think of in-person versus online instruction. Some of you like to do 100% in person. Some of you like to do a combination of in-person and online. And some of you are looking for 100% online where you don't have to essentially leave your current home in Orange County. So that's something that's a possible outcome for a lot of students. We just have to do some research because there's a fit for everybody at different schools. As you're researching schools, you also want to look into the campus demographics and culture. What's the student population like? Is it a big school with 40,000 students, or is it a smaller school with 9,000 students, 5,000 students, where your faculty to student ratio is a lot smaller? Are you looking for a private versus a public institution? Most private schools have a religious affiliation where they are following some type of religious denomination based as their foundation for that institution. Doesn't mean you have to be part of that religion for most of these institutions, but you will be taking courses that are affiliated with the religion. Are you looking for a school that has diversity centers like Latino centers, Black centers, first generation, foster youth? A lot of different campuses have what we call affinity centers where you're able to feel like you fit in right in that campus because there's students that are just like you. Are there special programs on campus like EOPS, um, CalWorks? Is there Puente? Is there programs that are of interest to you that would draw you in as a future student? What's student life like? Are you interested in student government? Are you interested in schools that have clubs and organizations and Greek life? This is all very important to take into consideration as you are researching your schools. You also want to consider transportation when it comes to your institutions. Are you looking for a school where you can walk to campus and you're living in the dorms, or maybe bike, or is it something that's a little bit more of a drive? Does your campus offer parking and shuttles for students so that you can save the cost of, having a car on campus and paying for a parking space? Um, is it living on campus versus is there guaranteed transfer housing? Is there off-campus living where it's directly associated with students? All of this is very important because if you're looking to leave, these are things that are going to be taken into consideration as you are applying to these schools because you want to make sure that you have somewhere comfortable to live while you're a student. When applying to transfer, all institutions review students a bit differently when it comes to transfer requirements. There's something that we call the holistic review that is very reflective of like the UCs, the private, a lot of out-of-state schools, where they're looking at the whole student. That includes GPA, courses, major prep, general education, extracurricular activities, volunteer work, paid internships, part-time work experience. They're looking at the whole student to make them to consider them as a part for future enrollment. There's some other schools that solely look at GPA and major prep, which is very reflective of most of the Cal states here in California, where they're just looking at the GPA you took and the major prep that align with their major. And if you did a volunteer work and extracurricular activities and all this great stuff, they don't necessarily take that into consideration for admissions. Are you looking for a school that's what we call a sweatshirt school? Typically, what we call a sweatshirt school is a school that's popular, recognized, where if I look at the red shirt with the Trojan on it, I automatically know it's USC without even having the logo of USC on there. So these are typically schools that are very involved in sports, school spirit. There's a lot of pride in joining these schools. And they become a little bit more competitive as an applicant. So this is where most of these schools, actually all the ones that you see on those sweatshirts, are going to be what we call that holistic review. So they're going to be taking those GPAs, extracurriculars, major prep, volunteer work into consideration. You also want to think of, are you interested in the semester versus quarter system? Why is this even important? Currently, as a community college student in California, you are in a semester-based system, meaning there's a fall, spring, and summer. Some schools also have intersession winter semester as part of it, but typically your fall and spring semesters are 16-week semesters where you start and finish your course in 16 weeks. The quarter system is a little bit different, where they divide the academic year into 4 quarters, which would be fall, winter, spring, and summer, where now your 16-week semesters became 10-week semesters. For some students, this is great because you feel like you're not dragging your semester along, but for some students, it might be too fast of a pace, because by the time you're in week 3, you're already talking about midterms, and by midterms, you're already talking by finals, because your semester has just become a 10-week semester. It does make your time potentially go a little bit faster and feel like you're going through the courses a little bit faster, but it is an accelerated pace in comparison to the semester. So what is impaction? Some campuses in California, out of state, private, wherever you're interested, have are impacted campuses. What that means is that essentially there are too many applicants applying for these campuses and not enough room to give everybody admissions. So what happens is that these are higher demand schools that become highly selective, and they're more competitive, meaning that they're honing in a little bit more on the student to see what sets the student apart from the whole diverse population that is applying. So they are looking specifically like at major coursework, a very competitive GPA, those extracurricular activities from the holistic review that I mentioned earlier. Um, so we want to make sure that you are a student that is setting yourself apart from a big pool of students. That's what's going to help you gain admissions into these institutions. Um, there are some institutions where not the whole institution is impacted versus only some majors are impacted, meaning that you might have a less impacted major, maybe in like a history major, liberal arts major, but an impacted major in something like engineering. So it just depends on the institution. There are some institutions like UCLA that's more competitive than UC Riverside or San Diego State versus Channel Islands. Those are just some examples of California schools that show competitive versus non-competitive. And, students are admitted based on space and capacity. Here's a list that shows the Cal States and UCs in regards to impaction. On the left, you'll see schools like Bakersfield, Chico, East Bay, Humboldt that are not impacted. And towards the middle, you'll see campuses that are impacted. Cal State Fullerton, right in our backyard, our local Cal State, Long Beach, San Diego State, San Jose, and San Luis Obispo. When it comes to the UCs, they are actually all impacted, but there's highly selective majors, and those vary by school and by major, and those are more selective, meaning that they're highly impacted. Here are some CSU basics. Cal State University transfer basics. Here are some important key basics to understand as you are planning on applying to the Cal State system. There's 22 campuses, all the way from San Diego, the furthest south, to Humboldt, the furthest north in California. And there's a lot of campuses around us here in Orange County, the closest campuses being Fullerton, Long Beach, Pomona, Dominguez Hills. And these are all open for transfer students. Remember, the Cal States are semester based, except for SLO. They are actually the quarter system, which is San Luis Obispo. They are hands-on learning, such as kinesiology and business administration majors. Those are kinesthetic learners, hands-on. And our tuition is based per academic year. For California residents, it's about $64,050 for full-time students that are in more than 6 units, and then about $37,038 for part-time students, which is less than 6 units. Something to note is that they don't charge you per unit; they charge you as a full-time or part-time student, which is something different than the community college system. And then you can see on the link below what majors are offered at each CSU. When you are a transfer student, you are transferring to complete upper division courses. And here are some of the admissions requirements that Cal States are looking for. So they want you to complete a minimum of 60 transferable units from the community college, and that's the 100, 200 level courses. And they want you to have a maximum of 70 units, meaning that they're going to apply a max of 70 units towards the bachelor's degree. About 30 of those units are general education. We are following the general education pattern of CalGETC, IGETC, the CSUGE. Make sure you're meeting with the counselor to understand which general education pattern is best fit for you. They require a minimum transferable GPA of a 2.0. Now, to clarify this is what they require in order for them to review your application. Remember, many campuses require a higher GPA, especially based on impaction, and you do have local priority admissions to Cal State Fullerton. They are looking for major preparation courses. Some require major prep completion prior to transfer, meaning the courses do have to be done at the community college before you're admitted, and some don't screen for major prep, just depending on the campus. Make sure you're conversating with the SCC counselor to understand what requirements are needed for your major. And then they also require the Golden 4, which is oral communication, written communication, critical thinking, and one transferable math. There are some Cal States that admit students with lower division transfers. So what does that mean, and how to understand this? So it definitely varies by campus. It's typically a non-impacted campus, and this means that you are leaving with less than 60 transferable units from the community college, typically ranging from 3 to 59 transferable units. They are 100 to 200 level courses. We must complete your written communication, your math and quantitative reasoning, have a minimum 2.0 for them to review your application. And then if you are applying as a lower division transfer, they will have you submit your high school transcripts, which is required, which is one big difference of you applying as an upper division student. Most students do plan on applying as upper division students from the community college, but occasionally some of you do want to transfer as a lower division, which we can look at what schools are accepting a lower division. Here are some average GPAs. GPAs do vary by year, and we want to make sure we're only using this as a reference because since they're changing by year, it's going to fluctuate a lot. These are for the Cal State campuses. That Cal State, like Fullerton, you're looking at a local GPA of a 2.8, for non-local 3.0. You are considered local for Cal State Fullerton because you are coming from an Orange County community college. Long Beach, unfortunately, we're not considered local to them, and you are looking more of a 3.2 to 3.5 for most of their popular majors. Remember, they are an impacted institution. Cal Poly Pomona, you're looking at a 3.0 to 3.5 for more popular majors. And then Dominguez Hills, not being as impacted, they do have a 2.0 minimum for admissions. So how's my application reviewed at the Cal States? So the Cal States are looking for general ed transfer requirements, major requirements for most institutions, especially the impacted ones, and a GPA. They're looking at, are you a local student versus non-local, because this gives you priority consideration for admission. They're looking at the impaction of majors. This can also have enough effort on your competitiveness. There's no personal statement, no extracurriculars required for 99% of the majors. You might have an occasional major like dance where you have to provide an audition, nursing where you have to do supplemental application, showing those extracurriculars for a point system, but it's very selective, very few majors. Here are some important deadlines to know, understand, and jot down on your calendars for the Cal States. The application filing period for the Cal States for fall is October 1st through November 30th. And then for spring, it's July 1st to August 30th. These are firm deadlines, so make sure that you mark your calendars. There's no first come, first serve, so it does not matter if you submit it on the 1st or the 30th. Students are all reviewed at the same time. Just make sure you don't fall behind. We encourage students to apply early because the system is known to crash the last couple of days, which makes it really hard to submit your application. Here we are at the UC Transfer Basics. When it comes to the UCs, there's 9 undergraduate campuses and 1 graduate campus. Typically, the trick question is how many UCs there are, and some students think 10, but there's really only 9 you can apply to. 1 graduate campus, meaning you can apply once you have a bachelor's degree. They typically only have master's and doctorate programs, and that is UC San Francisco. But there's 9 active UCs where you can apply to, from UC San Diego all the way to UC Davis, UC Irvine being our closest UC. They are the quarter system, except for Berkeley and said they actually work on the semester system. They're theoretical learning, research-based learning, investigative learning. So it's important that you love to read and write for these institutions, and love to be investigative. Your tuition per academic year for California residents is an estimate about $14,900. That was for the 25-26 academic year. And then you could see the majors that the UCs offer at the link below. Some UC transfer basic requirements are that you complete 60 transferable units. Once again, like the Cal States, they are accepting a maximum of 70 towards the bachelor's degree. You must complete a minimum of the 7-course pattern, which include English, critical thinking, math, arts and humanities, social behavioral sciences, and physical and biological sciences. It's 7 courses to make sure you're meeting the minimum general ed requirement. If you're not understanding what the 7-course pattern is, make sure that you meet with a counselor and we can determine that we're on track with 7-course pattern. Minimum of a 2.04 GPA for campuses to review your application. Keep in mind that majors that are highly selective are requiring significantly higher of a GPA. These schools are looking for major preparation prior to admissions to the institution. We use a website called assist.org to help us understand which major prep is required for each institution. And we encourage you to be familiar with assist.org, but always meet with a counselor as well. Now here are some average GPAs for the UC system. Keep in mind that this is for reference only and the GPAs do vary by year. But let's look at our probably most two popular UC campuses for application, which is UC Berkeley. You're looking at a 3.65 to 4.0, and the popular UCLA 3.76 to 4.0. You're looking at very strong GPAs. You look at a less impacted school like UC Merced, it's 3.18 to 3.8 depending on the major. GPA is highly dependent on the major, and there is something called the Transfer Admission Guarantee Tag, which is a guaranteed admission program that we'll talk about shortly. So how is my application reviewed at the UC system? The UC system is doing what they call a holistic review based on your general education, your major prep requirements, extracurricular activities, and your personal insight questions. So they want to know everything about you to ensure that you are a fit for the campus. This is the campus that is not just looking at your GPA and the classes you took. They are looking for what are you doing outside of being a regular student, sitting in class and taking these courses. It's important that you are setting yourself apart from other students to be a competitive student. And keep in mind that your major does have an effect on competitiveness. There are some majors that are less competitive than others. So it just depends on what you're looking for. Those personal insight questions are going to be like mini personal statements you will have to answer throughout your UC application. And that's where you're showing your extracurriculars within your college education. Here are some important deadlines for the UC application filing period. For fall, you're applying between October 1st through November 30th. Easy to remember because it's the same dates for the fall application for the Cal States. If you are planning to submit a tag application, that is done right before your regular fall application, which is September 1st to September 30th. You can apply for winter and spring for campuses that are open. This is just depending on schools. Not all UCs will open for admissions for the winter and spring. You apply between July 1st and mid-August, and then if you do plan on submitting a tag, it's between May 1st and 31st. How is my application reviewed at the UC and CSU? Requirements must be met by the end of spring semester prior to transferring in fall. You can have requirements in progress when you apply, and then summer coursework does not count towards admissions purposes, meaning that the summer prior to fall admissions, you cannot take courses that are required for admissions purposes. Everything needs to be done by the spring prior. What GPA will they look at for admissions purposes? GPA as the end of fall, so December is used for admissions purposes. So you can go all through fall semester with working very hard to try and get the strongest GPA because that's the last GPA they're going to look at. Do my spring grades courses not count? They still count. You must meet admissions required with the units and maintain a GPA. If admitted to universities, conditions are set, so meaning that you will be submitting a final spring a spring transcript for your admissions. And if you haven't met your conditions, meaning maintain the GPA, pass the courses that you said that you were going to take in the spring, there's a chance that your admissions could be denied at that point. So let's talk a little bit about private and out-of-state basics. When it comes to private and out-of-state schools, they're a little bit more liberal and flexible when it comes to application dates. So you'll see application dates that vary a lot for the private and out-of-states. It's important just to check each individual school's website to see when the application is due. Anytime that you see a private school, you'll most likely see a November to early spring deadline. And early apps do help with financial aid. So the sooner you get it in, the sooner you know if you're qualified for financial aid and housing. Many private out-of-state schools use the Common App, which is a website that allows you to complete your applications all in one place and essentially send your application to institutions of your choice without having to do individual applications for each school. This is where your essay and writing samples are going to be required, and some schools do require letters of recommendation, especially those private schools. Tuition does vary for each school. It's important to check the school's website to see what the tuition cost is for the individual school. Let's talk about some transfer agreements. Let's talk about some transfer programs. There are various transfer programs that help you get a higher consideration, priority consideration, higher boost into your admissions process to transfer into various institutions. We have programs from University of California, the UC system, such as Transfer Admission Guarantee, which is TAG, better known as UC Dual Admission. We have the California State University, the CSU, the TSP program, Transfer Success Pathway. We also have a degree with a guarantee, which gives you a guaranteed admission into one of the CSU campuses. We have agreements with Arizona State University, My Path to ASU, that allows you to get a guaranteed admission from a California community college into Arizona State University. We also have Chapman University CTAG, where if you meet certain prerequisites and get a specific GPA, you're admitted into their liberal arts program for future educators. Other transfer programs is the SCC Honors Program, which gives you a higher priority consideration into UCLA with their Transfer Alliance program known as TAP. UCI Honors to Honors, which if you complete SCC's honors program, can get a guaranteed admission to UCI Honors. And then we have a ADT for private and out-of-states, like Arizona State University, Southern New Hampshire University, which is an online school. It's stating that you have an associate's degree for transfer from a community college, you're guaranteed an admission. And then we have historically black colleges, HBCU agreements, which give you guaranteed admission to a school that falls under the HBCUs. Tons of opportunities for you as a transfer student. Here are some resources for financial aid that you can browse when you have some time. There's a lot of links for you to click on. But financial aid is very important as you are planning on transferring, as these institutions have a higher tuition rate than at a community college. There's scholarships that range from institutional to private scholarships. We have micro scholarships. We have an SCC Scholarship Foundation, which you can get scholarships from SCC to then use at future institutions. Scholarships are free money. So anything that you could apply to and you're willing to dedicate the time to apply to, we definitely encourage you to do so, as scholarships are going to be money that is going to help you pay for your tuition. The UCs have a wonderful program that helps pay for student tuition known as UC Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. Pretty much what this program is saying is that students will not have to pay the UC system tuition and fees out of their pocket if their family is a California resident whose family income is less than $100,000 a year and you qualify for financial aid. So free tuition at the UCs. The Blue and Gold students with sufficient financial aid can qualify for even more grant aid to help reduce the cost of attendance. To participate in this program, it's super easy. You just need to be admitted to the institution and have applied to the FAFSA by March 2nd, which is the priority deadline. Let's look at what you can do now as a community college student to prepare for transfer. One of the key things that we always tell students when you are a transfer student planning to apply for transfer is that you're continuously checking in with a counselor. Make sure that you're meeting with a counselor minimum one time per semester, more if needed, and make sure you're understanding your own admissions requirements to the campuses that you plan to apply to. It's important for you to understand general ed versus major prep, required which versus recommended. See if you're eligible for any associate's degree requirements that you would be leaving here from the community college from. We have opportunities for you to meet with career counselors if you're undecided on your major. Understand a little bit more about yourself and meet with a career counselor. We want you to make sure that you're creating a list of your schools that you're planning to apply to. We like to recommend start like a Google Excel, a Google Doc, so that you stay organized, schools that you're interested in applying to, especially if you're thinking of out of state private institutions, to keep aligned with those deadlines of applications since they're varied. And explore those schools, create a list that gives you pros and cons of each institution to make sure it's the best fit. You want to make sure that you try and visit the school, whether it's in person or virtually, ideally in person, but you want to feel what the environment's like, because the last thing we want you to do is you end up at a school that you had never been to and then not feel like it's a fit for you. You can meet university representatives through our transfer center and our transfer fair. SCC partners with a lot of representatives to bring them to campus to then meet with students and understand transfer agreements, what the campus is like, campus life, making sure that you're taking the steps and actions necessary to become a future transfer student for their institution. Follow Transfer Center. We post a lot on Instagram and Canvas. If you follow us on social media, we will post the most important things that are needed as a SCC transfer student. The Transfer Center is here to support you. We have a lot of transfer resources that are available to students as they are planning on transferring out from the community college. We offer university research assistance, individual advisement, that's with the counselor or our transfer center coordinator. We have application workshops and labs. So as you're going through your applications, you have support and another set of eyes looking at your application before you hit submit. We have campus tours to schools that are private, California schools. Some are through spring break, some of our tours are over the weekend, some are day tours. It's tons of opportunities for you to explore campuses in real life. We have college fairs throughout the academic year to introduce you to different campuses as those campuses come visit us during our college fairs. We have personal statement advice assistance, and where we could look at your personal statement, review it, give you some feedback. We have appointments with college and university reps where it's like one-on-one appointments. They come to our transfer center to visit with you. We have online appointments and workshops available. So if you can't make it to campus, we make workshops accessible for you. And now I would like you to go ahead and scan the QR code and take our Transfer 101 post test to see what you've learned and see if you've gained any knowledge from our workshop. And we are here to support you through the Transfer Center. Please visit us in D104 and you can see our contact information on our website and our hours of operation. And thank you for joining me.